What's up, baby? Boom breakdown. We got a Boomachino. We got Kevin Lee versus Rafael Dos Anjos UFC Rochester card coming up. Great, a lot of big fights announced as well as of late on for the UFC. I see a lot of great fights that are being announced. We got Cowboy Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson. We got who else do we got? Frankie Edgar versus Max Holloway. Just a lot of crazy fights being announced. And I think Rafael Dos Anjos versus Kevin Lee, very interesting fight in the welterweight division. You know, Kevin Lee obviously coming up from 155, having really tough weight cuts, you know, losing 20 pounds. And his last couple fights, he's had some downfalls. So, you know, but I do think this is a good matchup for him. I think that this is a matchup where, you know, we've seen Rafael Dos Anjos do really well with strikers, but when he had to face like a guy like Colby Covington, and guys that can pressure like that with the wrestling, that's where he has a little bit of issues and he starts to fade a little bit. Obviously, I would give the striking advantage to Dos Anjos, but not by much. You know, Kevin Lee's a very well-rounded fighter. He has good striking as well, but he's able to pressure with wrestling, you know, and I think the way that he fought Barboza is probably most likely going to be the way that he fights Dos Anjos. And I think that as the rounds go on, if Kevin Lee could avoid, you know, getting touched up on the feet, he can really pressure Dos Anjos, keep his back against the cage, try to pressure him with the clinch and the takedowns on the cage, and land some ground and pound, and try to make him fade as the fight goes on. I think he'll be able to get a decision if he could fight the smart fight. And I'm interested to see how he looks at welterweight. You know, this is his debut there. Obviously, the weight cut went a lot easier. We just saw him make weight with a smile on his face. So that's big. You know, there was talks about him maybe trying to make 165 just to make a little point. But we didn't see that happen. But yeah, it's interesting to see if he's going to really like how he feels at 170 and stick around there, or if he's going to do a one-off and maybe head back to 155. I think he's kind of reinventing himself. I think this will be where he stays. You know, I think 170 is going to be where he fits in best. You know, you don't really know how much a weight cut takes a toll on you until you go up to your natural weight class pretty much, which this is where we're going to see the full energetic Kevin Lee, you know, with, you know, not having put himself through that kind of situation on fight week. It could be a big role, could play a big factor. But it's really an interesting thing, you know, because I've seen guys go down in weight classes and look amazing, and guys go up in weight classes and look amazing, and vice versa. You know, you see guys go down and look terrible, and guys go up and look terrible. It's really just a styles make fights type of thing sometimes. And this fight is a good style matchup for Kevin Lee. You know, I think Dos Anjos is the type of guy that's going to want to keep it striking. He does have great jiu-jitsu, but mostly in his top game. Off his back, not so much. But I see Kevin Lee being able to execute the wrestling in this fight, and I'm going to have to go with him by decision. We got Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Ian Hainish. Man, Antonio Carlos Jr., his jiu-jitsu is solid, man. That guy will go for heel hooks, leg locks, all different types of submissions off his back. He's very dangerous. He's big for the weight class. I mean, I can't see none other than this guy getting a submission victory in this fight. Although Ian Hainish is like a very, very tough guy who's a grinder in there, and he's really well versed on the feet. But I don't know too much about his jiu-jitsu. I don't think he's going to be able to match up very well with Antonio Carlos Jr. on the ground. Obviously, I think that's where his strength is going to be in this fight. He's going to look to take it down, and I think eventually it'll end up on the ground at some point. And he's not bad at striking too. I mean, he's got a good kickboxing game, and he's very tall and lengthy for the weight class, so that'll play into his factors. But I got to go with submission for Antonio Carlos Jr. And then we got Megan Anderson on this card. She's fighting a newcomer, Felicia Spencer. I believe they were both Invicta champions. Megan Anderson coming off that win against Kat Zingano, a little bit controversial, caught her with the kick to the eye, but she's got very crisp striking. She's got, working with James Krause over there. She's got very diverse striking game too, and very long for the weight class. So she's gonna be tough for anybody to deal with. She doesn't necessarily have like crazy power or anything, but she's very good at movement and using her range and switching stances and kind of pawing out that jab and keeping you at bay. Long legs as well. She could utilize those leg kicks, keep you at her range. She can do really well in this fight. I'm going to go with Megan Anderson by decision. Vincent Luque versus the newcomer, Derek Krantz. Don't know much about the newcomer. I know he's just taking this fight on short notice. Luque was supposed to fight Neil Magny, who would have been a tough task because Magny has that length and that movement, and he has really great cardio. But Luque is a savage on the feet, man. His last fight against Barberena, both of them just taking shots and giving shots back. But Luque is just a very, very technical striker. You know, he moves his head, he slips punches, he counters very nicely, and he moves forward, keeps the pressure on you, and he throws punches and bunches. You know, it's never really one punch. He has very good volume game on the feet, and it was very impressive seeing his accuracy as well. And it's going to be a tough night out for the newcomer, man. To have to fight Luque on your first fight and debut in the UFC, that's no easy task. So I'm going with Luque by KO. I think he'll be able to get the finish. Charles Oliveira versus Nick Lentz. This is like a trilogy fight, I believe, with these two. They fought before. Charles Oliveira, obviously, this guy's got some of the best jiu-jitsu in the game, but Nick Lentz, he's the guillotine master behind myself. But no, his guillotine's fucking solid, and he's looked good on the feet as well as of late. You know, he's one of those guys that's been in the game for a long time. These guys have fought a lot of the top competition, and it's really a matter of who implements their game plan first. I think if Charles Oliveira can get the fight to the ground, obviously he's going to do really well. But he's going to have the length and the range advantage. He has the reach advantage. He's taller. He's going to have a little bit better kicks, I feel. Lentz is shorter, more compact, has bigger power shots in his hooks. But I feel like both of these guys kind of want to get the fight to the ground. I think Lentz has a little bit better wrestling. But then when the fight hits the mat, you're in a world of trouble with this guy, man. You don't want to mess around with his jiu-jitsu. Charles Oliveira will latch up a guillotine, triangle, armbar. He's all over these submissions, so you really don't want to stick around too long in his guard. Although Nick Lentz is a smart fighter, and I think he'll keep his base nice and tight, arms in, land some ground and pound and try to stay out of trouble. But I don't know if this fight will hit the ground. I kind of think it might be negated and stay on the feet. And, I would give the Muay Thai advantage to Charles Oliveira. I think that because of his reach and his kicks, he might be able to take away land some more strikes and win some more points. I don't think either fighter is going to get KO'd on the feet, but I think I got to go with Charles Oliveira, man. The guy's a fucking savage. We got Aspen Ladd versus Sijara Eubanks. Both women have had trouble with the weight before, but Sijara Eubanks is moving up now to the bantamweight division. I believe this is her first fight up there, but Aspen Ladd's been fucking running through the girls. She gets you on the ground, mounts you, and she seems to be very strong and compact for the weight class. Although Sijara seems like a strong girl as well, I think Aspen Ladd is, she's used to fighting at 135. She cuts a decent amount of weight, and she's going to have that strength advantage in this fight, I believe. And she's very technical on the ground as well. She knows how to, pass guard, get to mount, and just start landing ground and pound and keep that position. Girls try to buck her off, and it's a very tough task. So I'm going to go with Aspen Ladd by TKO, ground and pound. Des Green, baby. versus Charles Jourdain. I believe Charles Jourdain is coming up. He usually fights at 145, but I don't think Dez is like the biggest 155er. He doesn't cut a crazy amount of weight, but he is a really solid wrestler, and his striking has come a long way. And he's really confident with his striking. You know, he just fought Ross Pearson, and he put the guy away. I know he put him away kind of on the ground. He took him down, and on the cage, he kind of had that underhook and was just landing that solid right hands to the face with him pinned against the cage. But Dez is a seasoned wrestler. He's had many fights. He's got the experience factor in this. He's been all around the many different countries fighting big name guys. And he's got shortchanged a little bit having to fight guys that have missed weight by like 5 pounds and still took the fight. So, you know, that looks good for him. And now he's fighting in his hometown, Rochester. So he's going to get a loud pop here. And I used to train with Dez upstate in Ithaca when I first started. And he always had the spirit of a champion. And he always believed in himself. Even before he started his pro career, he was telling me, I'm going to be there, man. I'm going to make it. So, and he said it with conviction. I truly believed him. And now here he is doing his thing. So props to Dez. I hope he comes out with a big victory in his hometown, Rochester. I think he's going to get it done, man. I think he's going to get another TKO finish. Now we'll just go down the card, make some quick picks, and then we'll talk about some new fights. Danny Roberts, Michael Pereira. I'm going with Danny Roberts, decision. Mike Trezano versus Grant Dawson. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson by decision. Patrick Cummins versus Ed Herman. I'm going to go with Patrick Cummins by TKO. Zach Cummings versus Trevin Giles. I'm going to go with Zach Cummings by decision. Julio Arce versus Julian Erosa. I'm going to go with Julio Arce by TKO. And now let's talk about Tony Ferguson versus Cowboy Cerrone. Man, what a fight in the lightweight division. Ferguson's back. Really excited, you know. He had that little mental, phase he went through. He was dealing with some tough times. I'm just glad to see the guy back and healthy. And man, who doesn't love seeing this guy fight? Always in amazing, exciting fights. His last fight was against Pettis, and he put him away. And Pettis has looked amazing after that fight as of late at 170, knocking out Wonderboy Thompson. And Ferguson, man, the guy deserves a title fight, but he's got to fight. He's got to get past a fire hot Cowboy Cerrone right now. The guy is on fucking fire. He's tearing through the division. He's got a new mindset. He's got his kid Danger in the crowd, and he's looking like a fucking demon in there as of late. It's unbelievable how amazing he's looked. It just goes to show the mentality of things. You know, he's always had the skills, but his mentality is just unbreakable right now. And to go through a guy like Ali Quinta like that is just, it's amazing. It's really impressive, you know. Nearly put him away, but Ali Quinta is just too tough to ever go away. So, man, Cowboy Cerrone's looking crazy good as of late, and I think Ferguson's a tough matchup for anybody, but I do think that Cerrone is the more technical person on the feet. Jiu-jitsu, I'd have to give the edge to Ferguson off his back, but I think that Cerrone's good enough in the game to avoid any kind of submissions. You know, his wrestling's looked amazing as of late. He's improved in the wrestling immensely over the times, and his jiu-jitsu is amazing too. I mean, he submits very, very high-level guys like Barboza. He takes the back like none other, and you know, I don't think the fight will end up on the ground. I mean, unless some kind of crazy scramble goes on, I think the fight will stay standing. Ferguson's obviously going to have that funky style with his elbows, his knees, weird kicks, weird movement, switching stances, and Cerrone's going to be chewing up those legs with the leg kicks, the front snap kicks up the middle, and his jab is looking amazing too. He just looks fast and crisp everywhere. You know, as far as tactical, striking goes, I go with Cerrone. I think he's going to be more pinpoint accurate. He's going to be a little bit better with his Muay Thai. And, I think Ferguson's going to try to throw that off with the pressure game and the funky style that he has. He's going to have to really, really put pressure on Cerrone. If you're going to beat a guy like Cowboy Cerrone, you got to come out the first round like a savage out the gate. He's a guy that starts a little bit slow in the first round and picks it up. As Cerrone gets his rhythm going, that's when you're in trouble. Guy gets better and better as the fight goes on. So you want to get in Cerrone's face early, and you want to get him worried about stuff really early on in the fight, first round. I think Ferguson's a guy that could do that. The guy does not get tired. He's always in amazing 5-round shape. Excuse me. And that's what you got to do to Cerrone, man. Ferguson's got to come out the gate hot, be in his face, and I think he knows that. And I think he will do that. But the question is, will he break Cerrone early? Will he throw him off? Will he get in his face enough to put him away in the first round? Or will Cerrone be able to move around and kind of take his time and then open up as the second, third round come about? I don't know. This fight is so fucking hard to pick. I just don't see Cerrone losing at this point, man. Looking at how he's been as of late, I just can't imagine the guy losing. But if a guy's going to beat him, it's Ferguson, with his pressure, with his ability to hurt guys. He cuts guys open with his elbows. He's very, very dangerous in there. Danger! I don't even know if I could pick that fight yet. I think I'm going to give it time. I don't think I'm going to make a pick yet. I'm not afraid to make picks, but that fight, fuck, man. I don't know who to pick right now. We'll wait a little bit, see how things play out, and then we'll come back to that one. But we got Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis at 170. What the fuck, man? Diaz is back. 3 years off. Finally back. It's amazing. I love seeing Nate Diaz fight, man. I really miss. I kind of wish it was Conor, because I miss those press conferences with Conor and Nate. I just think they're so intriguing, the differences in the people that they are. And they have some similarities, but they're very different in the way that they talk. And it's just like, man, those press conferences are so entertaining. And I hope we see that trilogy fight eventually. And maybe this is kind of a little bit of a ploy from the UFC, hey, Conor, you don't want to budge, you want shares in the company. Well, we're going to give Nate this fight against Pettis. It was rumored that they tried to make Pettis versus Conor, and Conor didn't take the fight for whatever reason. I'm sure he wants some more money. I'm sure, and he deserves what he's asking for. But the UFC's got the deal with ESPN. They're not willing to budge further than they're willing to budge, and Conor's probably trying to negotiate further and get everything he deserves and everything he wants. And he'll wait it out until he does, because he's gonna make the company a tons of money. So he could play that game where he can kind of wait it out until he gets what he wants. But I think this is the UFC kind of saying, hey, listen, we're gonna move on without you if you don't want to sign the dotted line and make things happen. We got to keep moving, and that's just the way the business goes. So now we got Nate Diaz versus Pettis, and man, Nate Diaz, the most high volume boxer that there is in the game. He's got that peppered shots over and over and over, doesn't stop throwing. He's great. He's pretty great everywhere. I'd say like if he had one slight weakness, it'd be like his takedown defense, but it's looked better and better. And he's actually, he throws guys really well in the clinch. He has good trips, and his boxing game is amazing. Pettis is looking powerful at 170. Nobody knocked out Wonderboy Thompson. And Pettis is looking like he's revived his career, And I think a very important factor in this fight, which I think is going to be a very big difference maker, is kicks. Pettis has kicks. Nate Diaz does not have kicks. He has the boxing advantage. But Pettis is going to be able to land leg kicks and body kicks. And I think if you've seen Nate Diaz fail in the past, it's been with those hard body kicks. That's a way that you can hurt the guy and start to slow him down. And leg kicks as well. But I think Pettis is going to look to land that hard body kick. I think he's going to set it up. I think he's going to start with some leg kicks, maybe throw some high kicks in there, get Nate reaching up high to block kicks, and then I think he's going to rip one to the body. That's just my opinion. That's how I see it. And if he doesn't land something like that and Nate Diaz is in his face the whole fight, we saw with Ferguson versus Pettis. Pettis is a guy that will fade eventually if things aren't going his way, but you got to really put it on him. So Nate Diaz is that guy. Obviously, he's going to bring the volume. Tall, lengthy southpaw. Not really big for 170, so this is good for Pettis as far as size goes. It's not like he's facing a big 170er. You know, I think Wonderboy Thompson's a lot bigger than Nate. So, and he was able to knock him out. But Nate just doesn't get knocked out. The Diaz brothers do not get knocked out. It's just not part of their it's not part of the patois, you know. We've seen them get rocked, but never put out. So don't count on that. If you're gonna hurt him, I think Nate Diaz has to land that big body kick. That's where I see Pettis being able to, you know, really finish this fight. But yeah. That's an awesome fight. I really wonder if that had to do with Conor. You know, the fact that they booked Nate, is this a kind of like a lure, kind of try to get Conor to think, oh man, Nate's back. I want that fight. I want to fight Nate. I want the trilogy. Now Conor, maybe he wants to bite a little bit more. He sees Nate. He's about to get paid. He's fighting Pettis. I was going to fight Pettis. Now I want to fight you. I want to come back and get that trilogy. You know, I think sometimes these tactics are a factor. I think that UFC is smart, man. They know how to run business, and we'll see what happens. I think if Nate wins this fight, it just makes it even more, you know, brings a little bit more momentum into that fight with Conor happening, and I think that's what we'll see next if that's the case. Now, if Pettis wins, that kind of throws things off. I mean, I guess you could still make the trilogy fight with Nate and Conor because they're both coming off losses, but you kind of want to see Nate win and have that momentum and having just come off that to make that trilogy fight with Conor. Either way, Conor fights are money fights. They're big fights, big attention fights, so we'll see what happens with that. We got Frankie Edgar versus Max Holloway. Max Holloway coming back faster than I would have thought, you know. He took a lot of damage in that Poirier fight. I didn't expect him to come back as soon as he is, but obviously he wants to stay active, he said this year. And a lot of people were up in arms. You know, Volkanovski deserves the shot, but they gave it to Frankie Edgar. Let's be honest. Frankie Edgar's manager's Ali. The guy has a lot of power in this game. He's one of the, you know, most well-known managers in the game. He has some of the biggest stars in the game. I'm saying in the fucking game too much, aren't I? But yeah, Frankie Edgar versus Holloway. Edgar's obviously going to be a lot smaller, but he's shown no signs of weakness to be the smaller guy. Obviously, he fought at 155, and he did really well, became a world champion there. So, you know, now he's at 145, and he's, you know, a juggernaut in there, fast-paced fighter. Holloway is going to have a lot of size and reach advantage, and I think that's going to be a way better situation for him than having fought Poirier. You know, he's not dealing with a guy in Frankie Edgar with that one-punch knockout power, but he is dealing with a guy who can keep coming, keep bringing the fight. But Holloway's not a guy that fades. You know, he has great cardio himself, so I don't see that being a problem. And honestly, business-wise, I know a lot of people were like, well, Volkanovski, man, he just beat Aldo and Chad Mendes. He deserves the fight. He does deserve the fight. But you know what? He got that blood infection. He's in the hospital. He's going to come off of that. He's got to recover. I'm sure the guy wants a couple, you know, a month off, some time off. And it's going to work out. Timing's going to work out perfect for Volkanovski. They're going to Australia later in the year, I believe October. And this sets it up perfectly. This fight is what, in July, I believe? So Edgar versus Holloway, winner comes out July, August, September, October. That's 3 months. Whoever wins this fight, they most likely will be able to come back and defend the title against Volkanovski in Australia. I believe that's the plan. I think that's what's going to happen. Everything's all fucking beautiful. Volkanovski's not going to fight anybody else. He's not going to take the risk. Although Frankie Edgar did do that. He did take the risk. You know, he was scheduled to fight Holloway. It didn't happen. Holloway got sick. And now here he gets his chance. I mean, if you want to say the word deserve, it's hard to put, you know, a definition behind that, why someone deserves something. But Frankie Edgar's put the work in, man. The guy's a legend. And, you know, there is no issue with him getting this shot, in my opinion. And with timing-wise, with Volkanovski being, you know, with the infection and everything, and them going to Australia, it all works out. So I'm not mad at this. I'm looking forward to see this matchup. There he is right there. Fucking, they all cupcakes. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing Holloway get back. I hope he looks the same as he looked before Poirier. I hope that fight didn't affect him. He seems to have a very strong mentality. So I think he'll come out like the Max that was fighting Aldo, defending his title. He has amazing striking, man. He has I don't know who's teaching him these tricks or if it's just improvisation, but the guy is very slick and tricky in there. I just think he faced a guy in Poirier who had that different kind of power, and as good as a boxing that Poirier has, he was able to really hurt Holloway. And we haven't seen that in a long time, man. Holloway kind of like grinning, hurting there. So that was like surprising to me. I thought Holloway was going to take that with the way he's looked, but props to Poirier, man. Can't wait to see him fight Khabib. Uh, I don't really see anybody beating Khabib, to be honest, but if Poirier could put it on him early and hurt him, that's a possibility. So look forward to that. Big fights coming, man. We'll be back. Maybe we'll do a UFC Rochester post show, or we'll wait till the next card, get another Boom breakdown. Give me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, BrianBoom135. Give me a thumbs up. If you could subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Also, Boom is making music, baby. My new single is on Spotify. The link is in my bio on Instagram. I believe I posted it on Twitter. It's called Wasted Time. Check out my music. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think. Boom.